Prayer, please. Would you all stand for prayer?
Good evening. Is this on? Okay, real quick, let me just say, back at my table over there in the corner of Mars, we have a free booklet, an introduction to biblical law. Okay? And as I always do, I always open with 2 verses, but I want to just give you something to walk out of here with. In 1375, a guy by the name of John Wycliffe translated the Bible into English. That was the first time the English Bible was available to the English-speaking people. And inside the cover, in every one of his books that he had to handwrite, because the printing press didn't come into being until 14-something, he said this: the Bible is for the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The people back in 1375, when that was translated, understood those foundational biblical rules. Let me read my 2 verses real quick. This is Psalms, both will be from Psalms, 11:3. And I read this because of what happened this past Friday in France. If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? That's Psalms 11:3. Psalms 43:1 says, judge me, O God, and plead my cause against an ungodly nation. O deliver me from the deceitful and unjust man. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this meeting. We hope that we can understand what's going to be taught to us tonight and take it home safe this evening. Take the folks home safe this evening. We pray for all the folks that are hurting tonight in France, all the families that must have been affected by this tragedy. We pray for leadership, for wisdom for our leaders in this country. And we do look to you, dear Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Randy. Want me for the pledge?
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Now we'll have a brief update from Carol about education.
Okay. You've all heard of government agencies.
Good, Todd.
EPA, Environmental, HUD, Housing and Urban Development, OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the Department of Education, which is responsible for this terrible Common Core that our kids are dealing with now, Department of Transportation. Remember when we sat in line to buy gas and they said we all have to drive 55 miles an hour to save gas? Congress never passed that law. Department of Transportation did that. We often hear that they're disobeying the Constitution. Well, you don't have to go far, because Article 1, Section 1, the very first thing after the preamble, is very short, says all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. All laws are supposed to come from our Congress. But yet, all those departments that I mentioned, and many more that I didn't mention, are making rules every day that we have to live with, and never came from Congress. Congress is supposed to pass the laws. You see how far we're getting from our Constitution? Okay, with that in mind, my classes in December will be Wednesday, December 2nd at 6 o'clock, and Monday, December 7th at 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. December 7th, what is that? Very good, you guys are sharp. So again, Wednesday, December 2nd, that's the 6 p.m., and Monday the 7th, then 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Since Shirley answered that question, we should get a score. Before I let Linda come up, while she's coming up, how many of you are happy you're paying your school property tax? How many of you have been following what's been going on? You'll get a little update on that. Well, we have a petition that Sam has. Where is he? Sam? Oh, there he is. And he's going to hand it around. And we got to get a lot of signatures if you want to eliminate school property tax, because there's shenanigans going on, and people need to know we're not taking it, and that there's a lot of people listening. The more names on paper that belong to someone, the more they're going to listen. That's all they listen to. And if they don't listen, come election time, we're going to have to really make them listen to get them out. So, anyways, I'd like Linda to come up and give us an update.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. How many of you are preparing Thanksgiving dinner next week? Raise your hand. Okay, would you, those of you that are preparing it, if you'd mind putting your name back on the table back there and directions to your house. Sam and I might just stop in. In our family, we take turns. My daughter does Easter dinner, my sister does Thanksgiving dinner, and I do Christmas dinner. So we're covered. I'd like to tell you a few interesting facts about Thanksgiving Day. The USA National holiday of Thanksgiving Day goes back to 1863, when the 16th President, Abraham Lincoln, set the date as the last Thursday in November, which Congress amended in 1941 to be the fourth Thursday in November. President George Washington, in his first year of the first presidency, had created the first formal Thanksgiving Day in 1789, but it was not then a national holiday. The concept of Thanksgiving goes back more than a century and a half before President Washington's to the 1620s, when the English Pilgrim settlers fought for survival on the new continent. Almost half of the original batch of Pilgrims lost the battle for survival during the first winter, and many more subsequently. Survivors had much to be thankful for. The Pilgrims made 7 times more graves than huts. No Americans have been more impoverished than these who, nevertheless, set aside a day of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving dinners take about 18 hours to prepare. You all know that, right? All over America, families sit down to dinner at the same time for 12 minutes. Guess what? Halftime is 12 minutes. Is this a coincidence? Halftime. Okay. Thanksgiving is a perfect time to stop and reminisce about the many hours we've spent discussing that and this. The laughs, the smiles that we have known, the wonderful things we've done that make the friendships that we share a very special one. Have a lovely Thanksgiving Day, my friends.
I gotta disagree with you on one point you made. You said it takes 18 hours for Thanksgiving dinner. On the box, it tells me 10 minutes in the microwave and it's done. Sam?
Thank you, Jim. Hi, folks. We're going to wrap up the board elections tonight. Is Ed here? Is Ed here? Ed Light here? I did not see him. Okay, Bruce, come up here a minute, please. Folks, we have 2 board members that are leaving at the end of the year. That's Bruce Rader, who's been on the board for 2 years, and Ed Lay, who is not here this evening. He was on for 4 years. Well, Bruce. PCP would like to thank you for your time, your effort, and your dedication to our cause. Also, without people like you and Ed, BCP and other volunteer organizations would not be able to exist. So thank you very much for your service. Folks, let's give a big hand. I'm not waiting, I'm just going to become less active, but keep up the good work, guys. Okay, folks, next I'm going to announce the nominees. You guys want to stay where you are? You want to come up? Come on up. First up is Jim Billman, who is currently our chairman. Next we have Rod Miller. Micro. Who is currently our legislative chair. And we have Judy Pelka. Judy is our events chair and who put this event on this evening along with Leon. And then we have Jake, who is our treasurer. Jake's in the back there. He's guarding the merchandise. He didn't want to come up. So that's our 4 current board members that are up for re-election. Now we also have 2 newbies. Paul, where's Paul? Paul, come on up, come on. And is Carl here? Carl? Cancer? Oh, come on. Okay. Okay, folks, these are the 6 nominees for our election. Now, their names have been on the internet, so you had ample time to vet them. Now, we have 8 board positions open, but we only have 6 nominees. So per our bylaws, should the number of board nominees be equal to or less than the board positions open, a ballot is not necessary. A hand, yes or no vote of all nominees is acceptable. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to make a motion that we elect the 6 that you see in front of you. Do we have a second out there? Shirley, second? Great. Discussion on the motion? Any discussion?
Should we open the floor to volunteers or nominations?
No. They were closed. October 31st, nominations were closed. Thank you, Eldon. Okay, folks, we had a motion, we had a second, we have no discussion. We are now going to put it up for a vote. Folks, the motion is that we elect the 6 that you see in front of you for the 2016 BCP board. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed? As the election chair sees it, the ayes have it. Jake, please record as such. Thank you very much, folks. Folks, the election is physically over now. However, the work that's needed is not done. We still could use some more help. We have 2 board positions open, and we also have some committees that are open as well. So if you decide at a later time you would like to help us, please let us know. You cannot be voted on the board as these 6 were, but we can appoint you to the board. So give that some thought. Apparently I'm wearing a dual hat tonight. Okay, folks, we're going to give you an update on school property tax elimination. When I was asked to give an update about a week ago, I thought this would be a victory update. Well, it's not. Unless you were on Mars this last week, you probably know that the Senate was supposed to vote on school property tax elimination on Tuesday, and they did not. Why did they not vote on Tuesday? Well, as I understand it, there's two reasons. The first, you probably saw in the Eagle, which I will read in part. He had some minor technical concerns regarding the bill's implementation, which was raised. We agreed to make tweaks to the proposal and have it considered next week by the full Senate. When this came about on Tuesday, I asked Senator Fulmer, why? Why did this come about at the very last second? Well, Senator Fulmer's a good guy. He apologized. He took full responsibility for this occurring. He agrees that this should have been caught months ago and taken care of, but it wasn't. There's also a second reason. This here hasn't been in print yet. I found out Tuesday. I was waiting for it to come in print. I believe I can release it to you. Just in case I can't, please don't let it go further than this room. Okay? Our side is getting a lot of opposition from accountants, lawyers, people in the press, primarily because the sales tax is being expanded, not just increased, but expanded to cover their businesses. They don't like it. Now, our leadership feels that this is going to present a problem in the House. So they are thinking about, folks, this is just a thought, they're just considering this, of increasing the sales tax from 6 to 7%, as they were originally going to do. However, they called for expanding it to include other items. Instead of doing that, they're just thinking of increasing it from 6 to 7%. But now by doing that, they're going to lose revenue. The revenue they're going to lose, they're going to have to pick up somewhere. There is only one other funding source, and that's the personal income tax. So instead of increasing the personal income tax from 3.04% to I think it's 4.34%, it will be increased to 5.01%. That is the thought. Now, when this came about on Tuesday, I raised some concerns. My first concern was, well, you're doing this to appease a certain group of people, which may or may not work. On the other hand, would you be losing some other people? They don't know the answer to that. They said that they are going to do a dry run, come up with a couple different proposals through the different people in the Senate and see where things materialize. So we'll just have to see where that goes. Another concern I had was the opposition is going to find anything they can to defeat this bill or stall this bill. So I can see, if I was on the other side, say, hey, these are new numbers. This is a whole new ballgame. Oh, we can't vote for this now. We have to have time to read it before we sign it. You heard that before? Well, I can see them doing that, and I have no problem with them thinking of doing that. So that could further delay it. So again, this is only a thought. They're considering it. We'll just have to see where that takes us. So that is the two reasons that I know that they did not have the vote on Tuesday. Okay, what's going to happen next? Are we going to get a vote on Tuesday? Who knows? I will tell you that Tuesday night, Senator Fulmer left his office at 6 o'clock. When he left, his chief of staff was working on this. Senator Arnold's chief of staff was working on this. And Senator Foreman, who is the Senate Majority Leader, staff was working on this. That is very unusual. So the fact that they were doing this at that particular time is a good indication that there will be a vote on Tuesday. Additionally, the Senate is not in session next week. As I understand it, they're bringing the people in just for this. So based on that, based on the other information we have, most likely there will be a vote on Tuesday, and we certainly want to hold them, to that. However, now, this won't go down, 76 is still in the Finance Committee. It has not gone out. So what they plan to do is take another bill. It's House Bill 683. It has to do with veterans. They are going to propose an amendment to that particular bill. The amendment is going to be the exact words of SB 76. It will then put that up for a vote, assuming the amendment gets passed. So then they will be voting on the Veterans Bill and SB 76. So that's going to be the plan for next week. So if you're following it next week, what you want to do, don't look for SB 76. You're not going to see it. Look for HB 683. Even though that's not even on the schedule right now. But that's where you might want to look for it. In my opinion, there are 4 battles that need to be won for us to get school property tax elimination. Passing the Senate, of course, is a first. The second is the House. Now, the House, folks, is going to be a lot harder than the Senate. We're really going to need your help. It's going to be harder just for numbers. In the Senate, you have 50 senators, of which we need 26 votes. In the House, there's 203 members, of which we need 101. And I believe at the moment, we only have 40-some. Charlie, do you know? Charlie Gilbert? Okay, in the 40s, is that where it is? Okay, I thought that's what George had said. So that's going to be a little tough. However, we do have a couple things going for us. The first is, if the bill gets to the House, there is going to be pressure on the House because it passed the Senate, and the people are going to know this is a stumbling block here. But also, all 203 of them are going to be up for election next year. All of them. So I would not want to be one of those that does not vote for it. So we have that going for us. The third is the governor's veto. That's certainly a very strong situation and certainly could occur. I have a little bit different take on that. I think if the Senate passes the bill, the House passes the bill, this bill is sitting on the governor's desk, and he knows that the majority of Pennsylvanians want this to be passed, and they're waiting for his signature. I think that he will sign the bill. Not only do I think he will sign the bill, I think he's going to take credit for it. And I told someone last week, I says, I can actually see a picture in the Reading Eagle with Governor Wolf in the center and Senator Arnold on one side and Jim Cox on the other side. I hope that picture comes true. Some people also say that, look, saying, hey, this is 3 years away. People have a short memory. They're going to forget. If he vetoes it, folks, they're not going to forget. First of all, we are not going to allow them to forget. But also, they're going to get 3 school property tax bills between now and election time. Do you think that's going to remind them somewhat? I certainly think so. Finally, unity. Folks, this has been a unity group. This effort has been a unity effort by many, many groups. I see a bunch of the representatives in this room tonight. I see Charlie with EOP. I see Tom Capione is here from Lehigh Valley. I see Helen over here from the Tea Party. Andy is here. Al Bado's over here as well. This has truly been a unity group. This is for all of us. We all work together, and this is the only way that we get things done, by doing it together as a unity group rather than our own individual areas. Folks, our opposition is not twiddling their thumbs right now. They are working to defeat us. They're working to see that this bill does not get passed. And they've been successful this last week. We lost two sponsors. That's a swing of 4 votes. So we need your help. And what we'd like to do, or have you do, We actually have a sheet in the back, Linda has. There's 3 senators that we want you to contact. 2 of them flipped on us, and there's another one, Fontina I think is, I'm not really sure, I think he's the 3rd one. And we also want you to call the governor as well. We have all the contact information. Folks, we want you to do this 3 times every day from now through the time that they vote, which is Tuesday. That's not too difficult. Combination of email and telephone calls. Once you have all the information there. Now, you can also contact other Republican senators as well. But the ones I have on the list, as well as the governor, please contact those. And what you're going to say, very simple, whatever you want to say, however, just tell them, look, you want real property taxes eliminated. You're tired of not owning your home, just renting your home, and having people lose their homes. Whatever you want to say, any of those things. And don't let them tell you, if you call, that you're not in their district. Folks, their vote affects the whole state of Pennsylvania. So their vote counts, so they have every right to listen to you, and you insist, that they do. So folks, as I said, you guys are passing that out. You passing it out? Yeah. Oh, okay, fine, that's fine. If we do not have enough, it's on our website, so you can go there as well. Folks, I appreciate your patience. I want to thank you very much, and God bless you all. All right. Question? Yes, Elvin.
Do we have a sheet with a summary of all the legislators, like we have for the Senate, with addresses and phone numbers?
Well, first of all, that's very easy to get. General Assembly, click on Senators, it's right there. We have one here that has their email addresses and their name, has their email addresses, that's all. The ones that we're passing out here are just for 4 individuals. We have everything. We have their fax numbers, we have their addresses, their, all different phone numbers and emails, but we don't have the list that you're talking about here, but that's available. And first of all, you don't want to contact those that we know are already on board. There's no sense wasting your time on that. But folks, you do want to make sure you keep calling. There was one other item I forgot. I said there was 4 things of victory. I forgot the 4th. The 4th is the budget. They are talking about a sales tax in the budget. 7.25% we were told. If any sales tax is part of the budget, or any other legislation other than school property taxes, we're dead. Never to get done again. So watch it very closely. Now, there was an outpour of letters and phone calls, emails and so forth the last 2 weeks on the budget. And as I understand it, it was at least temporarily squashed. Let's hope it stays there. But if you hear anything, please, contact anybody you can. You do not want any sales tax increase without school property taxes eliminated. Any other questions quickly? Okay, folks, thank you very much. Rod's anxious.
Now I know what the Miller minutes are on the receiving end. Well, there's 3 major issues in play right now. Property tax, the budget, and pensions. Shan covered the property tax. I want to cover pensions. And we know there's much been written about the pension crisis. In fact, I've covered it several times. But you know that the pension system in place is the defined benefit concept, whereby every pensioner is guaranteed whatever the contract calls for, irrespective of taxpayers' ability to pay or the economic situation. They will get their money. In fact, if there's a crisis in Pennsylvania, the first ones to get dibs when the crisis is there are the pensioners. So they're in effect guaranteed to get what the pension system was called for. How bad is it? Well, right now, 10% of the budget is earmarked for pensions. If they don't make a change within 10 years, 50% of the budget will be for pensions. That's all your money out of your wallet. So, putting that in perspective, they're supposed to put $7 billion a year into the pension fund. They put $3 billion into the system. That's $4 billion less than needed to keep the pension system afloat, which is already $50 billion in the hole. In perspective, if you take that $4 billion divided by 365 days, that's $11 million a day of tax money they're short on shoring up the pension system. And nothing good is happening up till now. And we're not letting them up on it. Now, don't take my word for it. Representative McGinnis in the House, PhD in finance. What does he say the problem is? I will quote from him. Don't take my word for it. If we don't act now, it will be a massive, irresponsible, irreversible economic damage. SERS and PSERS have taxpayers on the hook for billions for the next 100 years. Funds will run out in 10 years. They call it D-Day, depletion day. Since the Pennsylvania Constitution says retirees get first priority when funds are short, just imagine industry wanting to come into Pennsylvania, knowing that the fund now amounts to $10,000 per resident of Pennsylvania. The cost of shoring up the system. How did we get there? Well, Act 8. That was in 2001. That's when the legislators voted themselves a 50% pension increase. And all the PSERS and SERS, they gave them 25%. That was the beginning. We then went to Act 38 in 2002. They retrofitted cost of living adjustment for the retirees, and that wasn't even in the plan. Act 40, 2003, gave a 10-year holiday paying into the pension system, creeping up this $50 billion. Act 120 in 2010 increased the benefits and underfunded the program. 50% increase, underfunded program. 2015, now we're 10%, like I told you, and we're heading for 50% of the budget just to pay the bill. Okay. PSERS and SERS, public employees, they didn't create this problem. They're happy with their pension. Fact is, we probably all die for their, well, we won't die for the pension, we won't get it. But the fact of the matter is, public pensions are very lucrative. And politicians have no incentive to make a real change because they're under the same umbrella. And as long as they're voting on something that affects their paycheck or their pension, there's going to be a lot of reluctance. The only thing they're going to feel is heat from us, because nothing else seems to motivate them. I want to give you some numbers, just to show you how bad this is. I did a survey the last couple of weeks on the pension crisis. I can tell you, for example, I went through a bunch of people already on pension, politicians. And right now, I looked at top 10 or 15 or 20 off the top, and I projected out 15 years, assuming that's a norm average. Their pension, I talked to Senator Toomey on this, the day we fire them, or they're unelected, or they retire, they go right down to HR and file for their pension. From that day forward, they're on full pension. The problem is, most of them take all the money they put into the system with interest, right up front, called lump sum. Right, Bill? Ugalier. You remember, we dumped those two. Senate Majority Leader and Senate Pro Tem. That's how we got Mike Fulmer elected and Eichelberg. They took lump sum up front, over $100,000, and still get a pension of over $80,000 a year. In fact, Bill's now working as a lobbyist, so he's getting twice. But all this money that they're collecting on an annual basis is all our money. It's tax money. I will quote, like I've recited many times before. Article 2, Section 8. The members of the General Assembly shall receive no salary, shall receive salary and mileage for regular and special sessions, and shall be fixed by law, and no other compensation whatever. Folks, you don't even deserve a pension based on the Constitution. That doesn't bother them. They make the law, they pass it, they convince the Supreme Court to stick by them. Of course, the Supreme Court gave some cockamamie ruling on it, and they're under the same pension umbrella, so they had no incentive to shoot it down. But as it is, just for example, I ran through a bunch. Now, consider that the group I looked at, they took lump sum payments, $416,000, $369,000, $329,000, $220,000, $209,000, $187,000, $167,000, $158,000, $394,000, $331,000, $219,000. It goes on. They took lump sums over $200,000, most every one of them. That's all their money they put in with interest. However, after they did that, projecting out 15 years, here's what they get. $2,084,385, $1,905,000, $1,484,000, $1,364,000, $1,320,000, $1,298,000. The top seven in the House, $4,291,000, $1,009,000, $1,008,000, $1,007,000, $1,002,000, $1,110,000. If you add all of this up, what that amounts to, if you add up those numbers I gave you, those that are on pension, that's $47 million in the House and $133 million in the Senate. That is what we will kick in over a 15-year span to keep the pensions afloat just for the politicians. That doesn't even take into account teachers and public employees. It just multiplies itself beyond belief. So, By the way, that totals between the two of them, that's $181,784,880. Be heading into pensions in the next not too distant future. I didn't even tell you that they also get free medical the rest of their lives. I calculated that out, just on $500 a month. That's almost $2 million they get a free med. It's not free, I mean, they don't pay it, but somebody's gonna pay it. So, this will continue. We either fire a bunch, my goal, or scare the bejesus out of a bunch so that they'll be concerned about losing the best part-time job they'll ever get. And that's fine with me. I outlined a plan last month, and those that were here, developing a voting record chart where I took every politician, left-hand column, and across the sheet, the issues that we most are concerned about that affect our wallet: pensions, property tax, right to work, paycheck protection, goes on. And we're charting all of these politicians, how many are sponsoring any of these bills, and how many are just skirting by and don't want to be bothered. In the right-hand column, I have another column that says, are they accepting the pensions? Folks, I'm telling you, if these guys become a zero across the sheet, or even if they only support maybe one item, and they're taking a pension, they are taxpayer parasites and do not deserve to stay in office. And I want them out. I've chased my tail in legislation for God knows how many years, particularly the last 4. And with, as you recall, Senator, God, I'm glad I forgot his name, Senate Majority Leader up until recently, Pelagi. Since Pelagi was dumped through pressure from folks like us, they have Corman in there now. We'll see where it goes. The unfortunate thing is, not only Corman, but all these guys I mentioned, they all voted for the 50% tax increase, and most, our pension increase, and most of them voted for the midnight pay raise. So, they're not looking out for us, they're looking out for them. I'm working on a program to dump these guys, but hopefully working with the organization we created, We the People, that I can disseminate information across the state to other leaders of like-minded groups, that these folks will be put on notice that they're not doing the job we're paid them to do, but they're certainly doing a job that suits them. And I want them out of there. I want them out in the worst way. I am done, I'm telling you. If anybody that supports any of my legislation, and he's on the pension list, that doesn't make him a friend of mine. It just means he's trying to get by without getting caught with his hand in the till. I encourage anybody that wants to help with us. I'll be calling a legislative meeting next Tuesday, and we're going to go through some of these things. It's going to take research to get this data together. I spent considerable time to get it off the ground, but for those that want to be part of this, I encourage you to put your name back there with Linda, and I'll give you an email notice when the meeting is going to be held. But folks, we got to change this. We got to change this in the worst way. This state is dire straits financially, and it was brought on by the people who are supposed to keep the state financially in order, and it's not working. It's time to make a change. Thank you. Next on our agenda is Tom Campion, who will speak on the subject that was also of concern, maybe not financially, but otherwise. Tom?
Thank you, Rod. Actually, before I speak on this subject, I'd first like to thank each and every one of you for coming out on this very dark, rainy night, it is critically important that you come out to these meetings. You know, you all are true patriots. To see a group this size show up, you are truly patriots and what makes this country great. It's important for you to come out to these meetings. Why? Because you know what? Lawmakers and other politicians talk. And when your board works hard to get out there and make changes in the community on our behalf, the lawmakers measure the size of this audience and they relate that to how much power your board has when they're in there negotiating and trying to get things done. So, keep coming and bring your friends. Okay. The topic that I was asked to touch base on is the student search project. You may recall that this project was launched when we first found out that most Berks County school districts do not have a policy prohibiting student strip searches. And that without such a policy, strip searches can, in fact, be conducted. So our goal, that is Berks County Patriots, specifically the Legislative Committee, our goal is to get each school district to implement a written policy that says if there's a need to search a student that requires the removal of clothing, school administrators are prohibited from conducting that search, and instead, police must conduct it. Further, parents must be contacted as soon as the decision to conduct this type of search is made. So, we started out, Judy and Sue began building a spreadsheet with addresses for each school board, the board president's name, and other details on their current policy. We were going to send a letter to all of these school districts, but after some discussion, decided that it was best perhaps to wait until after the November school board elections, because lots of people will be changing. Since we're now facing the holidays, we actually plan to begin sending these letters in January. And these letters will ask them to reply yes or no, they will or will not implement a no strip search policy. If they don't respond to the letter, the plan is for us to go to their school board meetings and to read the letter publicly in front of them and to again ask for them to answer with a very simple yes or no. They will or they will not. If they say yes, great. If they say no, then we plan to get parents in that school district involved and ask them to contact the board members and the school board president, demanding a no strip search policy. Obviously, this is a great deal of work, but we feel we owe it to our youngsters and to our Constitution. So know that Berks County Patriots is looking for volunteers to help with the school district strip search program. We need people to attend these board meetings and to present our proposal, read the letter. We'll provide the material necessary for you to present at these meetings and other assistance as may be required. If you are willing to get on board with this project and give us a hand, please see Judy after the meeting. Thank you very much.
pleasure to introduce our speaker for the evening, Colonel Bob Desousa. He's Senator Toomey, State Director. Besides that, he was a state judge advocate for the National Guard. He was a private attorney and businessman in the Harrisburg area, federal law clerk and assistant U.S. attorney, and served as chief counsel for the Pennsylvania Department of State. He was Inspector General of the Commonwealth under Governor Tom Rich and Mark Schweiker. He's also a colonel in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard, former national president of the Federal Bar Association, chairman of the board of the National Civil War Museum, and he has many awards. He graduated from the U.S. Army College in Carlisle, Bronze Star, Meritorious Service, and many other decorations. He's a member of the American Legion, Military Officers Association, Association of the United States Army, and the Association of the 28th Division. He was on the executive board of the Newport Freedom Boy Scout Council and Knight of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre. He is a past state judge advocate of the Department of the VFW.
Thank you, Liam. Can I book you for my obituary? What Liam was trying to say is I can't keep a job. I am Bob Desousa. I'm Senator Toomey's state director. What that means is that I run the state operations. Every U.S. senator has two sets of operations: the Washington, D.C. Part, which does the policy, the legislative, and the state operation. We have 7 offices throughout the Commonwealth. Your local office here is Allentown, and each of those offices has a manager, and I oversee that operation. We've got about 45 minutes, half an hour to chat with you tonight. Wanted to give you some update from Washington, leave some time for some discussion from the floor. I want to make it clear that I am an official employee of the United States Senate, so I don't get into what's going on with A's campaign or B's campaign, but other things that are official things going on in that office. And I did talk to Senator Toomey before coming, and he gave me some very good advice. He reminded me, he said, Bob, just because you can't give good remarks doesn't mean you can't give short remarks. So I will go through these quickly, and then we can get some of your questions. But first and foremost, I think the impact of what organizations like this have done, I think many times we focus on our defeats rather than our victories. I think some numbers are just worth thinking about. Prior to this election, this last November, there were 7,383 state legislators in the United States. In this last election, an additional 887 Republican members were elected. Okay? The trend in the state General Assemblies has been in that fashion. That's because of grassroots efforts. Since President Obama became president, 913 since his presidency. So largely in reaction to his presidency and organizations such as this, 913 across state legislatures. After 2 presidential elections and 2 midterm elections, the Republican Party has 33 governor's seats compared to 17 for the Democrats. And during President Obama's presidency, they have lost 11 governorships, 13 U.S. Senate seats, 69 House seats, 30 state General Assemblies. The Republicans control 69 out of 98 partisan state legislatures. The Republicans hold a lead of 247 to 188 in the House of Representatives. Now, in this year, in accordance with the Constitution, a third of the United States Senate is up. So this is a major effort by the Democrats because more Republicans are up than there are Democrats. In Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey is the only statewide elected Republican. So when you talk about statewide elections, that's a little different than when you're talking about the elections for General Assembly or your Congress, because of the way in which the districts are run. Obviously, Senator Toomey represents the entire state. But we have to be mindful, Pennsylvania has a senior senator that's a Democrat, a governor, an auditor general, a treasurer, all elected officials, and at least as of today still an attorney general who are elected Democrats. So Senator Toomey is the only elected statewide Republican in Pennsylvania. Now, in spite of having come into the Senate when the Democrats were in control, and in the last year and a half with the Republicans in control, we have had some conservative victories that we've been able to push through. So first and foremost, Senator Toomey was the leader in banning earmarks. Earmarks are done on the federal side. Okay, no more vote my way and we'll build a bridge in your district. Number one. Number two, and we get, unfortunately, in some pockets of the state, we get a lot of backlash to this, but Senator Toomey has led the charge against the XM Bank, which is essentially a taxpayer on the hook for the lending of money for businesses to do business overseas. Number three, Senator Toomey was one of the main pushers of passing a bill that would prevent the Department of Education from imposing Common Core on states through the waiver process. Now, we can't help whether or not a state voluntarily goes down that path, but that was a victory. I'm on 4, but I skipped one. Let me see what this is. Oh, okay. So up until this last budget, in which Senator Toomey voted no on the current budget, we were able, prior to this budget, but now unfortunately that victory has disappeared as of very, very shortly, was being able to pass the balanced budget in fiscal year 2016. Unfortunately, we now have passed this deal that gets us through the end of the Obama presidency, and Senator Toomey's problem with that is very simple. In President Obama's watch, during this 8 years, we will end the Obama presidency with a national debt of approximately $20,000 billion. I don't like to use the word trillion because a trillion is 1,000 billion dollars. For that reason, Senator Toomey voted against the current budget plan. That remains a major problem. But the number 5 was the attempt to put a check on the president regarding Iran, so that he could not do all of the stuff that he wanted to do with Iran. Obviously, he did a lot more than we would have wanted. Obviously, the president, as it relates to the Middle East altogether, we saw him the other day in Turkey. He's frankly doubling down on his position that he has turned this tide and we have nothing to worry about. Senator Toomey, as many of you know, was one of the leaders in pushing right now, saying we need to put a halt to the Syrian and other refugee situation. We are a generous people. We are people who have taken in refugees over the centuries. However, the number one obligation in Senator Toomey's mind of not only the senator but the president is to protect the American people. Until we are sure that we can protect the American people, we should put a halt on that program. The number 6 victory has been getting passed a law to protect our school children from pedophiles. And Pennsylvania had a very good law on that. But there was a thing that was known within the teaching community as passing the trash. So a teacher caught in a district doing untoward things with a child, it was easier for them to let him go, get him out of their state, and then they could come into another state essentially without any trail. Senator Toomey was able to overcome the opposition of the teachers union and get a federal bill that prohibits passing the trash. Sounds like common sense stuff, but it was a battle to get done. We've been laying the marker down on energy. Unfortunately, that effort was just essentially turned around just within the last 2 weeks by the president, finally coming, was to be defeated. So very unfortunate. We're fortunate right now that notwithstanding the regulatory situation that the president has put forward, notwithstanding the roadblocks that he's put in the way, that because largely of hydraulic fracturing and other energy sources, our price at the pump is low. But that is in spite of the president putting in roadblocks on things like the Keystone pipeline. The Crime Victims Fund is something that we've gotten, we've moved the ball forward, and so you understand how this works. You may have seen some of this in the news, but Senator Toomey is moving the ball forward and getting a bill passed that says, this will surprise you, that money that comes into the Crime Victims Fund needs to be used for what? Crime victims, right. Believe it or not, Congress has been getting this money in, and they've been giving a portion, but then they've been using a legislative thing to put it into the black hole. And you've got places, you know, you think of places like Reading City, where there are people that have horrible crimes coming to them. You have shelters there that are underfunded. And Senator Toomey is moving the bill forward to make sure 100% of crime victim money that's collected, this is penalties on criminals and all, that money goes to crime victims. And the last was the correction of, it's a technical thing, was the correction of what they call the SGR, and that would have stopped the doctor rationing that we're already seeing happen because of the Affordable Care Act. Now, some hot issues in Washington, right out of the box. This one is a very, very disturbing one, and it's one we have found all across the state. Senator Toomey held a hearing out in Pittsburgh on this, but there is a huge heroin epidemic here in Pennsylvania. In many cases, this starts out in the legitimate world. We have a problem in the military. We have a problem in the VA. So some guy's overseas and gets banged up, and he sees the doc, and the doc gives him a handful of pills, to kill the pain. We all understand that. But what we didn't know medically, as we know today, is how short a window it is for a person physically to get addicted to these opioids. And we have seen this problem explode, and it becomes a major burden on counties throughout Pennsylvania, on people coming in and out of hospitals, coming in and out of clinics, etc. Very, very big problem. So Senator Toomey has been able to get past a bipartisan bill. It's working its way now through the House, which would stop at least one small sliver of that, and that's doctor shopping. Okay, so you go to Dr. A, and they give you a script, and you go to Dr. B, and they give you a script, and the system's not communicating. And what happens is, people start this way. That's where they first start. When they run out of that, the next thing you know, it's a very short trip to them actually using heroin. Because believe it or not, heroin is cheaper than getting the opioids. So this is a very major problem that we've been attacking. Number two, Senator Toomey has been the lead advocate. He has spoken on the Senate floor. He has was on Bill O'Reilly not too long ago about police lives matter. The men in blue matter. Okay, it's tragic to see that when you have some of these situations like in Baltimore, where people then turn and attack law enforcement, what is the net result? Baltimore's murder rate is through the ceiling right now. Absolutely through the ceiling. Why? Because they've attacked law enforcement. You know, there are occasional bad policemen in the world. We all know that. But the vast majority of people that get up and put that uniform on are trying to do good and putting themselves in harm's way a lot. And Senator Toomey is moving that ball forward by, number one, speaking about it, and number two, pushing through federal legislation that would parallel, again, Pennsylvania's law, that would make it a capital offense to willfully kill a police officer because he's a police officer. Next thing on that line is Senator Toomey is leading the charge against sanctuary cities. We have the city of Philadelphia. Philadelphia is doubling down, frankly, on being a sanctuary city. Okay, we can't on the one hand say that we're going to bring in with limited check refugees and others, but on the other hand, can't say that we're going to have all this screening. On the other hand, but if they go to a city that's a refugee city and they commit a crime, we're not going to turn them over to the department, to the authorities. That's got to stop. Federal funding to sanctuary cities has got to stop. Now, on things that Senator Toomey has consistently voted on that we have not been able to push the ball forward, but we'll continue to move forward with. He has consistently voted to defund Planned Parenthood. The funding measures regarding Planned Parenthood, okay, those measures didn't say that they weren't going to spend that money. They said we're going to give it to the actual health service folks in places like Reading. So take it away from Planned Parenthood and give it to the people who are actually delivering medical care. He's consistently voted to defund and repeal Obamacare. We know that this president is certainly not going to sign a repeal of Obamacare during his presidency, but God willing, that changes in a year and a half. That's got to be the number one thing on the agenda. Who here has had their medical bills lowered because of the Affordable Care Act? Well, I got to confess, I have, and I'll tell you why. Because as a federal employee, you had to take the federal employees' health benefit plan. That was the law. If you were able to take the federal employees' health benefit plan, you had to take it. With Obamacare, I was now, they changed the law because you have a choice, and so I could do what I had taken before I went to work for Senator Toomey, and that was my military TRICARE. So the guys in my office who make a lot less money than me, they pay more. Because I happen to wear the military uniform, because of the flu, I'm the only one in my office who benefited from Obamacare, and not for the reasons that they were intended. It's because I actually now had an option that I didn't have before, that I could fall back on my military health care. But we all know that's the rarity, and I'm falling onto that not because of Obamacare, but because of a fluke in Obamacare. He is opposed to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. He is worked to block the global warming regulations of the EPA. We've had some small success with that in the court. As the earlier speaker mentioned, the regulatory tidal wave has just become overwhelming. The regulators, not only are they promulgating more and more regulation, but they're reinterpreting old regulations in ways that we've never seen before. The last one that we've not been as successful as we would like to be, what we continue to fight for, is repealing some of the president's, what we see as abuse of religious liberties, including, it's hard to think that we live in a time now in which a public enemy is the Little Sisters of the Poor. That the Little Sisters of the Poor have to provide abortion as a part of their health care. It really is a very scary thing indeed. And we'll continue to fight that. We've not been as successful at that as we'd like. So what I had promised is to try to run through my notes pretty quickly and to leave some time for questions. I'd glad to answer some questions if I can.
Okay, if anybody has a question, I'd like you to introduce yourself, and please limit it to a question, please.
Okay. I'm Elizabeth from Kempton, and my question is, if you follow the money trail, what did the sanctuary cities get from being sanctuary cities that makes them want to be them?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. And what I can say is there is a philosophy among places like San Francisco where they have their view that everybody's equal. All cultures are equal, all religions are equal, all people are equal, and they also have a view that the United States should not, when I was younger, we spoke about illegal aliens. That was the word, aliens. And then it became illegal immigrants. They just speak of immigrants. In other words, there's no distinction between someone who came over the border legally and illegally. And because in their mind there should be no distinction, that any of those distinctions are because of prejudices or racism or whatever, they believe that is the overwhelming thing that means that they're not going to turn over people. The second thing is the original concept for the sanctuary part has now been, so there originally was an idea that, let's say if there was an illegal immigrant and the person was pregnant and had a child, they wouldn't go to the hospital. And so they didn't want to discourage people from doing something like that if they thought, if you go to the hospital, have my baby and be arrested. So it starts out with a little narrow thing. And then it becomes a thing where, well, he's only committed 4 felonies, I'm not going to turn him over, So there's two things. There's the philosophy, and then it starts out in a small way, and then grows into something that defies all confidence.
My name is David Goldberg, and my question is about the military. Do you know anything about HR 148, which allows the military to speak from their religious beliefs, like they're trying to get rid of the chaplains in the military, but it's okay to talk if you're a Muslim, but you can't talk if you're a Christian?
Yeah, I am not aware of that bill. So generally, I mean, I am aware of the concept because I am an officer myself. I know what the background is. Senator Toomey, I can say, I don't know enough about that bill because basically we generally don't look at a House bill, an HR, until it comes to the Senate. We look to see if there's a Senate companion bill. But the truth is, there's so many issues and there's so much stuff in Washington that we don't generally look at a bill until it comes up. But I can tell you, in general, Senator Toomey is a big advocate of religious freedom. So I understand what the issue is. We haven't seen that bill. We're not on the Senate Armed Forces Committee, but conceptually, Senator Toomey does believe that people should have certain religious freedoms, and we also have to look at common sense. You have to look at what is the context and what we're talking about. But I know many in the United States Army Chaplain Corps that are concerned with that issue.
Hey, my name is John I. from Perry Township. What is Senator Toomey's policy on the national right to carry on?
Well, Senator Toomey was a co-sponsor of the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act.
Any chance of getting it passed in the near future?
Well, there is a guy called Barack Obama still in the White House. But one thing that I don't like to do, because even with your speaker talking about the budget, people will ask all the time, what's the chance of X, what's the chance of Y? And the way in which things are currently work in Washington, or don't work in Washington, and the same thing we're seeing in Harrisburg, I don't like to speculate on that. Senator Toomey absolutely supports that.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Pellegrini. I work as a financial advisor, and I bring that to your attention because prior to the ACA, trust income had been taxed at one rate, and since then it's not as favorable. And my question to you is, are the politicians down there in Washington, D.C. aware of the fact that trust income is sometimes being put aside for children's college education and for special needs children? And so therefore, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Are they aware of this, or are they planning on doing about it?
To be honest, I don't know about that particular provision, but I'd be glad to. And it may well be that our healthcare staff is aware of that part of it. There are lots and lots of bad things about the so-called Affordable Care Act, and there is very little common sense at all. Very little common sense at all in our tax code. You'll remember that Senator Toomey voted against the bill that created the special committee back, the 3-4 years ago. That he voted against that because he believed it was Congress's obligation to pass a budget. Notwithstanding that, he was put on that committee. He was the only one on the committee who came up with a budget. And his budget would have lowered the tax rates, brought in greater revenue. But one of the things, and this is coming up to this one, how there's nothing that makes sense in Washington. There's approximately $4 trillion, so $4,000 billion of U.S. company profits sitting overseas. But because we're the only industrialized nation in the world that taxes it at a very high rate, if you're General Motors, if you're Exxon, whatever, you make a profit in India, and you're going to get taxed 35% to bring it into the United States, what are you going to do? You're going to leave it in India. So my point is, even on that, where Senator Toomey said, let's just, I know I can't get it to zero where it is in many places, like England, but let's maybe bring it down to 5%, and we know these corporations will bring millions and millions and millions back, and we can get a little back, but we'll spur the economy. No, it's not fair. So I don't know that particular provision, and I'd be glad to, Leanne has my contact information, whatever. If you want to shoot me an email, I'll get you an answer. But just because something doesn't make common sense doesn't mean you can sell it in Washington. I know that's surprising.
Yeah, next question here. Randy Tolman, Lehigh County. Senator Toomey is a banker by trade. He was on Wall Street. He was owner of a bank that he founded on the board in Lehigh County, so he understands finance, I would think, rather well. Now, what does he have to say about what Yellen's doing with the Federal Reserve, and what's he going to do about that corrupt system and the $20 million, and I've heard numbers as high as $700 trillion in derivatives in the open market across the globe. I want to know what he's going to do about that corrupt Federal Reserve down in Washington, D.C. Don't you think it's killing the families because they took away the interest rate for the banking system? I don't hear him say anything about that. He hasn't joined Ron Paul, and I want to know why.
Well, if you haven't heard, then you haven't listened. That'd be number one. Number two, Senator Toomey is consistent, spoken about the false keeping down of the rate and the manipulation by the Reserve, and he has grilled Ms. Yellen about that. The one thing that I think that, respectfully, sir, in the way in which you did your question, the one thing that we do, we look at someone and we say, well, I agree with him 95%, but here's one thing that I don't agree with him, so therefore, I'm going to stay home. You know what? That's why we have a Democrat governor in Pennsylvania. That's why we have a Democrat Auditor General, a Democrat across the board. We've got to, I'm not criticizing you having your opinion, and I'm not criticizing you pushing it. You should. You should always make sure your voice is heard. But I'm not going to stand here to take like as if we're not doing something. Senator Toomey is one of 100, and he has pushed against that, and he has wailed against quantitative easing from day one. We've created a false bubble by artificially, and what's that? And so we have turned over the whole. You said you do some planning and investment. We've turned over the whole. The whole basic formula forever and ever was, be in equities when you're young, and when you're older, you want secure. Well, how can you tell an older and retired population to be in banknotes, et cetera, so if they're going to get 0.5%? You can't even touch inflation. But the manipulation by the Federal Reserve is out of control as far as their constant, essentially printing of money through quantitative easing and artificially keeping the numbers where they are. Senator, we just said that a couple of weeks ago, when he said, you know, if not now, when? When is it that you're going to let the market begin to control?
As Earl Evans being bills now, I think Pennsylvania's is entitled the Equity Act. The federal one is the Non-Discrimination Act. And I was wondering where Senator Toomey, what side he comes down on that. I think most people are for equal rights for everybody, but these bills tend to give special rights to certain groups. And so if you could tell me where Senator Toomey stands.
I'm not aware that the federal bill, so let me answer that two ways. First of all, we generally don't comment on state rules, and I'll tell you why. One, because of the role, we try to stick within our pond of the federal role versus the state role, but also, if we were coming sort of with pure hands, in other words, if everything in Washington were working so well that we had the time that we could get into, you know, what's working or not working on the state, that would be great. But we've got our own problems. But I'm not aware of the federal bill, but I can tell you this: Senator Toomey does not believe that we need more laws in this area. I can tell you that much. I'm not aware of that particular bill or who's behind it or whether it's in the House or in the Senate or they're just talking about it. But we don't need, in general, more laws in that area. So I wish I could, I just don't know if, you know, without a Senate bill number such and such or whatever, but I know conceptually we do not need more laws in that area. Yes, sir. Oh, ladies first.
Okay, today, my name's Kim Free. Okay, today on CBS Philly News, in Allentown, there were the Egyptians, Jordanians, Iraqis, and Syrians. 200 arrived today. I guess it was today, sometime this week, and they went to Allentown to the American Charity Association to receive food supplies and medical care, and he's a refugee family. So how did this happen? And I thought this was going to stop because we're here right now.
Yeah. Okay. So there's two things. One, you know, within the constitutional scheme, now we may disagree whether he's doing it or not, but the President of the United States executes the law. Okay. So he implements. He's the one in charge of agency. So what Congress is now trying to do is trying to rein in. The only real tool Congress has is to cut the funding. So you cannot spend money on air. Right now, what they've done is simply, they've written the President, they've asked him to stop it, they know he's not going to based on just that. And there are moves now to find tools to fund it. Now, the second part is, you know, broadly speaking, there are bona fide refugees, and if you want to look at this in a sort of protection type thing, we really don't have a lot of threat from, or if you think of, let me put it this way: if you think of when you think of a refugee from any other type of situation that we've got, who are generally refugees? Women and young children. Okay. Not 18, 19, 20. So there are situations where if they are properly screened, that we ought to be able to accept people that are not a risk. Now the question of, the other question is, we need to do a better job, and something that this group does consistently push for. We need to make sure that we are teaching people American values. That is the second part of that. Not just to bring people so they stay in a pocket, but to bring them into the American culture. But there was stuff, a lot of this was already underway. You know, the President has come up with the number that he would like to do. Congress is pushing back on that. I think that in that particular area, we may be able to have some success because the American people, regrettably, it took the Paris situation, but the American people are now waiting. I think I have to make one more after this because I have to speak at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning in Quakertown. Pity those poor people.
Bruce Rader, question about the leader of the Senate. There's some in the Senate that want to remove Mitch McConnell as the leader of the Senate, majority leader. How does Pat Toomey feel about removing Senator Mitch McConnell?
Moral.
I don't believe that Senator Toomey would support removing Senator McConnell in a vacuum. In other words, what's the plan? Is there the votes to replace him, and with whom? Me speaking, this is not the Senator. Me speaking on a personal level, I do think that Mitch McConnell, personally, I think he gets a lot of blame for having people within his caucus who are soft. And I'm not saying that there couldn't be a better leader, but I do think to a degree Mitch McConnell he's the guy standing up there, he takes a lot of the punches. But be that as it may, I don't think there's any, I'm not aware of any current, people talk about that, I'm not aware of any real current move to make that happen.
As far as the refugees go and the vetting, if somebody gave you a bowl with 100 M&Ms and 10 of them were poison, would you take them?
Well, that's exactly Senator Toomey's, that's exactly why Senator Toomey has called for a freeze in that. Regrettably, I do need to wind up, but I would offer you this, again, Leon has my contact, he knows for sure. The one thing that I think you can always be guaranteed regarding Senator Toomey and our staffers is we may not always get you the answer you want, but we will always get you an answer. Okay, so if you want to know where something is going, you want to know if something's moving, and you want to make sure that your voice is heard, it is important. The folks talking about calling a member of the General Assembly or writing a letter, that is important. A lot of times people think that in politics it's all about money and whatever. Money in our political system unfortunately plays a big role in elections. There's no question about that. But hearing from regular people remains very important. Every call that comes into our office, every letter, we summarize, and the senator is made aware. Every single one. I appreciate very much you hearing from me tonight. Hopefully I was able to answer some of your questions.
I lost all my notes. I want to let Sam make a very important announcement now. This just came about, and it's something we all need to know. So, Sam.
Thanks, Jim. Folks, just a few minutes ago, we got word that David Bollinger, who is the founder, the godfather of school property tax elimination, was just rushed to a hospital for emergency surgery. People at his home are crying. This is unscheduled, obviously. So, folks, we ask for your prayer. Please say your prayers for him. We want him, obviously, to pull through this. We want him to see the victory that he started. Please pray for him. Thank you all.
Okay, as we continue, we want to open the floor up to the audience here. We're coming up on a new year, as you know, December. By the way, does everybody here remember our December event is the second Thursday, not the third Thursday. If you show up here the third Thursday, you're going to be cold and all alone. So it is the second Thursday, and we're going to ask that you, bring things for the veterans, like we normally do. We have a handout in the back. I don't know where they are. Do you have them, Linda? Okay, Linda has them back there. Give you some ideas and what it's all about. But we'd like to know from you guys, like right now, what are things you want to hear in the coming year? I know myself, I'm very concerned. I have a family member who's traveling to the Middle East a lot, and I'm not liking it very much. we all hear what's going on here. Did you hear about the, I think it was 5 Syrians they caught with the fake passports that were heading here? I mean, these are coming for a reason, folks. You know, I mean, they're not coming here to be our friends when you're faking your way to get here, most likely. I admit there's probably good people who are stuck in a bad situation, but as Charlie said, you know, you get 100 M&Ms and 10 of them are going to kill you. Well, you know, what do? I agree with creating a safe haven in Syria, maybe. You know, a place where our military should be there. Give them a safe place to live in their own homeland. Because I'll be damned if somebody came here and started a war here. I'm going down with a fight, and I don't want to go somewhere else. I really don't. I was born here, raised here, like most of you, and I have no desire to go anywhere else in the world. I like it here, and I'm staying. And I'm fighting to the end, so, you know. Has anybody got any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear in the coming year? Jake's taking notes back there. What would you like to hear? Yeah. I don't have the other microphone. Sam should, Bruce will take it around. You gotta turn it on, Bruce. No, you can blow on it all you want. You gotta turn the button on. Hold the button. You didn't blow right off.
Roger Feig, Addison Township, former history teacher in high school. I'd be kicked out today because I taught and expressed the truth of our country.
Taught American history, I assume.
World history and but I've been retired 24 years, so I guess they forgot about that. My concern, and Jefferson did mention that the only way our system continues to work is through education. I just don't think with the news media today, they're trying to say that the fight with the Islamic terrorists is a new thing. This thing started in 700 AD. And I was wondering if we couldn't get some experts in here, of course an expert has been on the whole sport, to maybe educate people as to what has happened over those 1,400 years, that there always has been a system to eliminate non-believers. And you're hearing all kinds of rhetoric today that the Quran doesn't say that. So I'm wondering if we can get some kind of program set up in the new year to sort of, in a general way, educate all of us so we all have the same information.
I agree, and we do want to do that. Is there any other suggestions? And by the way, we have looked into somebody coming here. I can't remember the lady's name, but it was $10,000.
Bridget Gabriel.
That's it, Bridget Gabriel, to get her here to speak. We looked into other people in the past, and I'm terrible with names, I can't remember my kids' names, but it was $100,000 to get somebody here and provide security for them. You know, these people was, if we could get Hillary here, we could give her $300,000. Maybe we could raise some money by everybody gets to smack her once for 20 bucks. No, I'm kidding, I'm joking. Go ahead, Alan.
I'd like to ask you if you could get somebody else again to speak on the coming economic collapse graphs and what we're to do and where we should go with our savings and, you know, what are good investments and stuff like that. If you could get somebody again.
Yeah, Frank Ryan touched on that, but we could certainly get him back. But as Frank and I were kind of joking when he was here, I made some very good investments in the past, and they pay good dividends. It's called lead. Invest in it. You're going to need it. Anybody else? Well, we do have a suggestion box in all seriousness. I know some people, oh, there we go. Jake is taking notes of what you say, so please speak up now.
Hi, my name is Lisa Widener, and this is my first meeting, so thank you for being here, everyone.
Thank you for coming.
And, you know, in listening to all of this, I get very, very emotional, like I get very tense, because it just sounds all so frustrating. I'm a homeschooler, and I've been for 15 years. I have 7 children. And I just had a couple of things, and maybe it's a totally different direction, but you know, we are where we are, and the refugees situation, the financial situation, and everything else that's going on. And I'm assuming that most of the people in this room are Christian, as am I. And it seems to me like the thing that we can do, the thing that we can actually do and make headway with, is as a Christian, evangelize, but also like, you know, I think homeschooling is kind of thinking outside the box. It's taking the situation that exists in the school system and saying, I don't want any part of this. So now what am I going to do, you know, to do better? You know, to do better. How am I going to cope with what's already existing and see to my own family? And maybe, you know, speakers that address alternatives, you know, that are realistic. Because when I hear about legislation, I just want to run away. Because, I mean, you know, the whole pro-life thing I've been privy to and a part of, and it's just like one of the men said, chasing your tail. You know, it just seems like you're chasing your tail. You're not really accomplishing anything. So, you know, maybe that kind of approach in a couple different areas with your speakers, and they'd probably be cheaper too.
Okay.
Don Meyer is from Kempton. Can we act and work on this real fast and get President Obama to resign right now?
I think if everybody in this room took everybody you know and started a sheet to get signatures to have him impeached, I think they'd all be lost anyways. I do believe this man is, you know, this is my opinion, this is not fact. I do believe this man is trying to stay in power. He's trying to create a national emergency. Are you guys all aware of executive orders? There was one under Bill Clinton in a national emergency. In other words, martial law is declared in the entire country, countrywide, which would be a terrorist activity. The Constitution could be suspended and the powers that be would stay in power. Now, maybe I'm reading something into it that's not there, but I always think of these things. I delve into the minutia of whatever's going on, and I see a scenario like that possibly unfolding. He's bringing these people here for a reason. I do not believe he has Americans' best interest at hand. He has written a book, just like Adolf Hitler wrote a book. And if you read Obama's book, he has a plan laid out, and certainly does not follow what our forefathers believed. It's not an American philosophy, that's for sure. So these are things I think about. And I'll be honest with you folks, everybody in this room, at one time or another, is going to need everybody else in this room. These times will come. And I fear another war where it ends up on this soil, because the greatest generation, which was the World War II generation, hardly exists anymore. Everybody's out for themselves now. Do you think neighbor will come together to help neighbor? Do you think the people that are dependent on the system and who are used to getting a free ride for doing nothing, who are pretty unruly now, do you think they're going to come knocking on your door for a piece of bread? No, I think they're going to shoot you, take your bread, you know, then go shoot your neighbor and leave a mess behind. And I believe those times are coming, I honestly do. Go ahead.
John Hyde again. I think, I'm almost positive that FDR's 1933 state of emergency was never repealed. It's still in effect. Is that right, Bill?
Yes.
He says yes. So that basically invalidated the Constitution. It's still in effect. It was never repealed. 1933 by FDR. That's why he took over the railroads and a lot of industry during the Depression.
It's scary.
It is, and if you don't think these things can happen again, they can. I think things are happening right before our eyes that, unfortunately, we're a small percentage of Americans who are awake. You know, what we find is Deborah and I go to Florida, and there's a group ironically called the Patriots, and they're in Lake County, Claremont, and we got involved with them down there when we go, but they've had to go to every other month meetings because it has waned off. They haven't seen any real successes down there, and people just get tired of, you know, coming to a meeting and nothing happens. So many voices, you know, politicians listen. The bigger your organization, the more they're going to listen. Don't know that it's going to help a whole lot sometimes. Sometimes it does. But at least they listen, and it gives you a way in. All right, well, let me move on with a couple of announcements. I already announced about the December meeting. Ironic story, Jim Boyer's a witness to this. What was that, October, right? That was the end of October, that picnic. September, okay. Well, we're going to give you an opportunity to do exactly like I did at the end of September. We're going to have a gun raffle, and Mr. Charles Miller back there has the examples of the weapons we have. And I'd like you to stop by and hold them up one at a time, Charlie. Will you please? Just yell out what it is. I can't see from here.
40 caliber.
Taurus 40 caliber semi-automatic pistol.
12 gauge pump shotgun.
12 gauge pump shotgun, ideal for home defense, and I'll tell you something about that in a minute.
Another 12 gauge home defense shotgun.
One was a pistol grip, one has a shoulder stock.
Handy little 9mm carbine.
9mm carbine, puts a lot of lead downwind. Okay, anyways, getting back to those. The shotgun especially has a universal language. I don't care if you come from Syria, I don't care if you come from some Middle Eastern country, any other one, you understand that sound. When you come through the door and you hear that sound, you know that all hell's about to break loose on you, and you better be running the other direction. So, that's universal language for one. Anyways, went to this, I got invited by a friend, never been there before, South End Gun Club, Deb and I, to go to this, all the food you can eat and beer you can drink for the day, and they had a gun raffle. And how many years have you been going there, Jimbo? 10. Well, my first time out, I'm a newbie. And we're not there very long. My friend Mike punches me arm. I'm like, what's wrong with you? He said, they just called your name. I thought he was kidding. So we walk up, and sure enough, I won a .308 hunting rifle. So, and then Deborah, they were shuffling these tickets on the table, and she picked one out, just one ticket. Went in this big tub.
The right one.
The red one, yeah. And a little while later, my name came up again. And I won a 50 caliber inline hunting rifle. So, I already have a .308 and lots of rifles. I didn't have a 50 caliber inline, so I kept that. It's very nice, but I took the cash value, which, by the way, you can do with ours. If you don't like the weapons we have, you can take that cash value, buy another one, or any combination thereof. But I will be the best dressed hunter in the woods this year. My socks, my underwear, my pants, my jacket, my hand warmer, my backpack, and my hat are all matching for once in my life. I will look like the tree. But anyways, we didn't get time to get the tickets printed, so I must apologize. They will be available for December. Printer's a little backed up, so we couldn't get the tickets, but those will be the weapons. You'll know all about it. It's $20 a ticket. We're only, I forget how many tickets we haven't printed. Yeah, no, wait, we're going to do that, Bruce. Hold on. 100, yeah. It was 150. Yeah, okay, 150 to 200 tickets, so that gives you very good odds. And I'm not going to buy any because I would feel very guilty if I win 2 more, so. I'd like to bring Helen McMahon up here. She has an announcement about an event going on.
Hi, everybody. I want to tell you about a couple of things that are going on. First, Kimberly is going to tell you about 2 spontaneous rallies that are going to occur. One will be tomorrow and one will be Saturday. So let her talk about those first.
Well, tomorrow, or on Friday, this Friday, there's going to be a No Refugees rally. It's going to be on, that's November 20th, 12:30 p.m. at the State Capitol Building. So, I don't know if she said 1:30 or something. But, and then Saturday, we're going to be having one at 2 o'clock at the Governor's Mansion at 2035 North Front Street, Harrisburg, PA. We're going to be there until whenever, I don't know, for 3 hours or whatever. So, pretty much it.
Okay, so they kind of came up spontaneously in the last couple of days, but we as a group met the other night, and what we came up with is what we call the Pennsylvania State of Emergency. And so basically it says stand up, unite, take action. Basically what we want to do is we've already scheduled the rotunda for December 9th. The reason why we're taking a little time is because we want this to be a statewide effort. We want to notify every Patriot group in Pennsylvania to come on from the west and the east and the north and the south, to come on this particular day to the rotunda and to, with us, give Governor Wolf a letter of protest for his refugee state, his stance. And so we want all of you to know this, so we're going to hand out the flyers for it, and we'd like you to get it far and wide. We're going to be probably in the next week notifying all the important talking heads and the morning programs, the media, the newspapers, and to try and get as much publicity as we can and to get as many people as we can out on December 9th in the rotunda, and that's from 11:30 to 12:30. And I will tell you that the first person that stood up and said, "I'll speak at your event," was Mark Gillen. And so I'd like to thank him a lot for that, and without any hesitation, he said he would be there. So flyers are being handed out, so please make sure you scan them, whatever you can do to get the message out on your Twitter, your Facebook, your email list. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Amy. Oh, wait, there you go, trying to take my nose. Oh, no, that's yours. You can have that one. Get it. Okay, last year we had a very successful event for Operation Baby It's Cold Outside. So I'm going to bring up Celeste Kwiatkowski. She's going to let you know what it's all about. And hopefully we can make it better this year.
Jim. Okay, that's it. I really appreciate being invited back this year. My better half is in the back. Ted, you would stand up. That's my soldier boy. Normally when I go do events for veterans, I like to wear my tour jacket. This is Bob Hope's tour jacket from Vietnam. And I thought, well, I'm going to get one of my costumes out. Well, it turned out the only thing that fit anymore was the shoes, so, oh well. Listen, Operation Baby It's Cold Outside is in full swing right now. And the donations that we're looking for, hold on, I need the glasses too. Insult on injury, the costumes don't fit and need the glasses, there you go. We're looking for men's winter coats. We don't take women's for the simple reason, if a woman is homeless, she could wear a man's coat, but a man can't wear a woman's coat. And we're a mom and pop operation, real small deal. We don't take any cash. We're looking for supplies only. So we take men's winter coats, hats, gloves, hand warmers, sweaters, warm socks, sweatsuits, warm long underwear, jeans, small camping tents, sleeping bags, socks, and socks and the long underwear are the only things that we require to be new, as you might guess. That's something that we would need to have new. Anything else, as long as it's clean, we're grateful for whatever you want to donate. And I have brochures back there so you can see what you might want to, what else you might want to bring or give. We're going to be back here at your meeting next time, and so in December. And if you want to, bring things to the meeting, we can take them then. We'll have some volunteers to help us. All of the donations that we receive are going to be distributed through Veterans Making a Difference, which is Doug and Liz Graybill's foundation, and they serve homeless veterans and veterans in danger of becoming homeless in the Berks County area. So all your donations will be local. We also accept, maybe you don't have a coat that you could spare, things like non-perishable food, canned items. And one other thing we are collecting, and I hope you guys can help us out with it, is the Holy Bible. This is the power to transform and heal lives. A lot of our veterans, I'm sure you've heard the statistic, 22 veterans every day in the United States commit suicide. That's a national shame. And maybe here, right? So if you have one that maybe you got as a gift, it's not a version that you like, we'd like to have it. So, please look around and see what you've got. You can also take any of the donations and drop them off at our house. I have my phone number on brochures in the back. And what you're just going to need to do is call me and I'll give you directions. We're only doing that through Sunday. So I've got too many pickups scheduled to do it any other way. So through Sunday, you can drop it off at our house, or I would suggest just bring it at your December meeting, and I'd be happy to pick it up at that time. On a personal note, today I'm wearing a hat from Paris that my mom gave me. And my family heritage is German and French. I have family that lives there. My daughter, my grandchildren. And I suggest that we all pray for the people of France. And there's an old saying, it's kind of a joke, but it goes like this: raise one hand if you like the French, raise two if you are. Because traditionally, give us the bottle of champagne, we're gonna surrender. But I am proud of the way they have answered the bell. And something I thought I would mention too here, because you're all patriots and you're all concerned about America. We can't vet these people. They can't be vetted. There you go, that's the whole thing. And the news media is not telling you a lot of things. Many of the people that were in the cafes, after their throats were cut, they were gutted while they died. And I think it's important we know the facts, even though they're ugly, because we're fighting an enemy. And I'm going to close with something that I thought was just so perfect today. And I'm sorry I'm taking a few more minutes, Jim. This is from Philippians. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And to that I would add, thank God for the Second Amendment, because if they bring it here behind every blade of grass, God bless America, and God bless all of you, and viva la France.
We heard a lot of reference to the Bible tonight, and I've read the book quite a few times. And just so you know, if you haven't, in the end, we do win as Christians. No matter how bad things get, we win. And sometimes that's what I have to think of to keep going some days. We do win eventually. But it will get very, very bad. If you believe in the Bible, then you know that the end times, which I believe are here now, are going to be making Hitler's Holocaust look like a Sunday school boy's picnic. That's how bad it will get. So, we have no more announcements at this time. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I don't know where Randy is, so I'll close in prayer. Where's Randy? Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't even see you there. Don't forget, December is a meeting strictly for the veterans. There'll be no speakers or anything, but it's a good time of fellowship to get together, invite your friends, and just remember them. Somebody already bought a box of food tonight. There's been a lot of monetary donations. And quite frankly, how many of you are aware of how many homeless veterans we have in the area? Anybody really? Have you ever come across any? Just raise your hand if you have. Deborah and I can take you to 6 camps right now where these guys are living in the woods. There's one off the Toomey Trail. There's one on South Street. There's one behind my buddy's garage on Kutztown Road. There's another one right on the bypass, which the city has plowed down one time a couple years ago. They're mostly veterans. Right off the Penn Street Bridge. You know when you get off the bridge, there's that big rock right by the river? As you're heading, what is that, heading north? Well, right on the other side of that rock, right next to the river, there's a lot of veterans live there in tents, cardboard boxes with tin roofs on them that they put together. And a couple of years ago, the city plowed them out. Where do they go? Are you aware the Hope Rescue Mission right now is totally redoing? A good friend of mine is helping with the remodeling. They're redoing the whole basement of the Hope Rescue Mission at 6th Street strictly for veterans. That's how many there are, to get them off the streets so they don't freeze to death over winter. They're everywhere. Probably in your own neighborhood, you might see these people every day and never give them any thought, but they're there. So, just so you know, it really is a problem. And that's not just here, it's everywhere. So, people we need to think about when we got our blessings. You know, there's people that are not as fortunate.
Thanks, Jim. So we rise and be dismissed, please. Before we go to prayer, back on my table is this free book. It's an introduction to biblical law. For those of you that are Christians and interested in biblical law, I highly recommend you pick up a free copy and look at it. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for all the blessings that you give the people in this room. We pray for the families of the French folks over there that are hurting very deeply. They can't even understand. Dear Lord, we don't even know how to pray to help them. Give us strength to continue on. Give us insight, give us understanding as to what we should do for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Randy. Hey, Jim, how many hot dogs we have left back there? Please? Okay, all right.